But I did want to talk about something to start the show here today, because I'm always talking about the fact that I think that sports media coverage cruelty makes it so that it's very hard to simply celebrate greatness in sports conversationally. And what I wanted to talk about as it relates to Simone Biles is something that happened with me watching her that I was legitimately surprised happened to me, which I had a hiccup of breathlessness, my breath taken away from when she lands, the way that she lands, because I realize I'm watching something that goes beyond where I thought human limits used to be. And when she hits in that corner without taking a step, the sound summons something in me.
A hiccup
of my breath taken away. And so I know there are times in sports, all over sports, a goal horn, a moment of drama. Hell, the rugby result yesterday, where the last play of the game, you're winning the game. There are all sorts of things that happen all the time in sports that are like that. But I wanted to ask the group, where in sports do you find the things like that that are celebratory in nature and test human limits or what you think about human limits so much that your breath is literally taken away in the moment of what it is that you're witnessing, because you're like, how does a human being do that? That is well beyond anything I've been able to see a human being ever do.
How does that human being do something so much better than everyone else who is working just as hard as she is at what it is they
Who's
do?
ever done
right.
it, those Stugotz? You
Crazy.
think you know something.
I know.
We're not experts.
I watched that floor exercise last night.
That's the stuff that takes your breath away. But there have been some stuff online recently where they've had actual like D1 gymnasts just try to do a move that she does, like that spin, like crouch down move. I forget what it's called, on the balance beam, and they can't do it one time. She does it 3 times. Meanwhile, you're talking about her landing like perfectly on a move named after her. Yeah, it's breathtaking.
Call me old school, but a 104 mile an hour fastball still gets me going.
Huh?
You've been struggling with the speaking lately. What's going on with you? What's going on with you?
I'm just saying more words, maybe. I mean, this is me.
It's that me and Chris do a bit of a ping pong match where we'll all like missay words, right? And then he'll look back at me, and then I'll look back at him, and I'll say something like, "I gotcha."
Chris is human.
What'd you say?
104 mile an hour fastball.
I feel like I stumbled on like one little word in there. It was pretty clear what I said.
So you see a 104 mile hour fastball, and you go,
Hiccup?
Like Dan last night.
You sure you just didn't have the hiccups? Like this is a whole segment built on a little gas?
I wasn't left breathless because I realized that I had to save my breath for a more pressure-filled competition. The U.S. entered that medal round in the team gymnastics final a minus 1,300 favorite to win the gold. In fact, if you watch her routines, for her, which is, I mean, the curve that she's established, she played it kind of safe. Yes, the difficulty level, especially with the floor exercise, is way up there. But if she'll step out of bounds or if she won't get as much height, like these are things that she was playing a little bit more safe with her routines with.
They had the goal wrapped up.
So, like, there was an interesting moment in which when she was on the floor, because we all know what's hovering over all of this is the pressure and what happened at the previous Olympics. There was a moment where she just basically has to avoid a total disaster, and they win the gold. But all the other rotations stopped, and all eyes were on her. And it took something that already has a fair amount of pressure, just made it way more tense. But for me, I'm saving my breath for like the all around the individual competitions, because the competition is going to be so much more heightened, and the pressure will correspond with that.
They talked about it. Her and Jordan Childs talked about when they knew they won the gold, and that was when Simone hit her vault. Because that was when they were like, oh, okay, we're not going to have flashbacks to Japan. She's going to be okay. And that's all she has to be, is okay, and they're still going to win. I don't know if any of you guys watched the latest documentary with her on Netflix. I liked it. I thought
I'm watching
it was
the Peacock one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This one, it's very much like, the sprinter one, the receiver one. It's all sort of cookie cutter. But this one, the thing that got me about Simone Biles is I always thought of her as this perfect, like, athletic robot, like this princess, like, because obviously they started at such a young age in gymnastics, and she has been so good, almost robotic in how good she is. This humanized her in a way that made me say, oh, wow. like I'm going to feel the pressure for her more than I did back before I knew her, because I thought she was just, again, this freak of nature who can do this at a moment's notice with no practice.
Even after her bailing on the last time we saw her have to deal with pressures of this kind and saying, I'm not going to do that, I feel like I'm going to get physically hurt.
It felt to me like a computer glitch, that. Especially because there was no fans, everything was different, and so it probably felt different to her. And I was like, oh, okay, they'll reprogram her, she'll be fine. But then watching that and seeing just the lack of confidence that comes up even when she was younger, even when she knows that she's the best in the world, all that is just hard to fathom when you're as good as she is. But yeah, it humanized her in a way that made me feel a lot more pressure for her in these games.
It was kind of a relaxing experience to watch, to know that they kind of had it locked up, because I have a strange amount of connection points as a 38-year-old white Hispanic male who can't do anything near what she can do, but was in front of microphones, was defending her, was someone that suffered with performance anxiety and self-doubt and panic and all that stuff. So I was already locked in and fully invested, but also as someone that has provided all that context, just an admirer of the competition, peak athletics, and actually conquering your demons, I reserve my breath for what's to come later on. And I wasn't totally blown away by it because she had to play it safe, and it was a team competition. The rules are totally different.
But the team competition, to me, and I'm curious what Jess thinks about this, is because you mentioned your age. And so to me, like, I came up with, Mary Lorette, and I mentioned it yesterday, and how difficult it was for the U.S. women to reach the top. And now that they've stayed there for such a long time, something of a gymnastics dynasty, if you will, Jess, how do you see that? Because I've always seen it as so stressful, so difficult, and that this team has overcome so much, whereas now it just feels like kind of a cakewalk.
Yeah, I would say that this team is definitely peerless, I guess you could say. Like, they won by 6 points, and then I think the bronze was another 7 points behind that. So they really didn't have much competition, but you still have to go out there and actually perform and do it, which that in itself takes so much strength, and especially given all of the horrible scandals in U.S. gymnastics over the last 10 years, just knowing that these are athletes that have been through that and have seen like the really ugly side of gymnastics too. I don't really take anything for granted with them. I think everything that these athletes have accomplished should get the most praise because of how difficult the road has been, and just even how difficult the sport really is to compete in. It's so hard. I mean, these are athletes that start competing at such a young age, and I can't even imagine how difficult it must be to go through it and then to ultimately win gold. It must feel so cathartic, especially. I'm
glad it still feels that way.
Just waiting.
Because for me, for somebody who's been watching them as so great for so long, I thought that maybe you'd take it for granted. But I'm glad you don't feel that
definitely
way.
not. And especially because there were former gymnasts that were formerly competing for the U.S. that did make negative comments about this team that these gold medal winners heard and internalized and then kind of threw back at in their faces. I thought that was another really nice way to end it too.
We've got an emergency call right now from Lucy Rodin from her father's basement because she's eager to talk about gymnastics. There are things happening in the Olympics. She hasn't been able to talk about them into a microphone. So Lucy joins us now from what looks like, is that wood paneling back there?
So
it is.
It's a great basement. I love a good basement, and that one is straight out of the 70s. I mean, that's amazing.
There's so much wood paneling, and my dad decided to decorate. Like, you can see it over here by hanging up more wood on the wood paneling. Like, there are different slabs of wood just hung up on the wood, and all the frames are wood, and all the furniture is wood. If there is a house fire, we are screwed.
Tell us about why it is that you're so eager to talk about all things gymnastics. Just before you came on, Izzy was asking me, do the men have to dance or fake dance in the corners?
Why don't they have to dance on floor exercise?
They should have to dance.
Thank you.
Why don't they? What is happening there?
I don't know. It's wrong. They have to prove that they have rhythm too. Why would you not want to talk about gymnastics? Team gold. that team is legendary. Simone Biles, every time I watch her, it's just like you know you're watching history, and it's hard to even say that she's a generational talent because she's more than that. Like I don't know what the next step is, but it's generational talent, Simone Biles.
Lucy, we didn't really get to talk about the rest of the gymnastics team yet. We've only really talked about Simone Biles today. So can you talk about some of the things that the rest of this team has gone through to get back to the top of the podium in this Olympics, specifically Sunni Lee, who was kind of the star of the Tokyo Olympics?
Sunni Lee, like every time they play her story, it makes me want to cry just because to go through the things she's gone through, where she won gold at Tokyo in the all-around competition. And there was a lot of pushback to it because we all know Simone Biles opted out of that Olympics after getting the twisties. And so she had to deal with like horrible stuff online, which ended up being the least difficult thing she had to deal with. She goes and she's a gymnast at Auburn, wakes up one day and her face is completely swollen shut. She like can't breathe, gains 45 pounds in like 2 weeks, and finds out that she has this like kidney disease that they don't know if she's ever going to play gymnastics again, that she'll ever be able to compete. So she had to go through like insane like medical procedures and training to get back to be able to compete. And it started from scratch. She lost all her skills. Like her body was still recovering. Like 45 pounds in 2 weeks is like that crazy. And then to do that, go all the way back to the Olympics, win the team gold, and have such an amazing performance. Like, it is remarkable what she has gone through. And like, even outside of her health issues, she's dealt with stalkers. Like at Auburn, she had to take online classes because she couldn't deal with just like the popularity on campus. Like, this girl has been through hell and back over the last 4 years, and for it to end up with a team gold is just like, I'm just so happy for her. I'm happy for all of them.
Lucy, you know what's wild to me is, having watched gymnastics since, like I've said a couple of times now, since '84, is that these women are going to college after competing in the Olympics. And I'm wondering how much that helps. Just sort of the team environment that you're constantly in helps you overcome these types of things instead of feeling like you're an individual sport like maybe in the past.
Yeah, what's weird is this is sort of like feels kind of like a new trend. Like previous Olympians, they would just compete professionally. And I think there's a big difference in what NIL has brought to the space, where you're able to compete and make money. I know that Jade talked about it, how going to Oregon State and like having that constant, just like having coaching all the time, having the ability to hone her skills at maybe a smaller level, just being the collegiate stage, has helped so much. And there's the ability for these athletes to make money now. Jordan Childs goes to UCLA. Hesley Rivera's 16. She'll probably go to college. That's crazy that she's 16 years old. That actually upsets me. Like, you're not allowed to be more accomplished than me when you're 16. Like, that's just not allowed. But it's really cool to see these like collegiate athletes. Like, that's crazy that they are competing right now in Paris, and 3 months from now they're gonna be at a frat party. That's insane.
I just saw sweep across the faces of Jessica and Mike. I'm not totally sure I have this right because I don't know what they're saying to each other, but that music does give off more Asian spa than it does Olympics.
Chris is really married to this bit because he's insistent that this is the Olympics theme. And I'm like, yeah, on that service, it was for the Beijing Olympics. Yeah. And he's like, we're in too deep. I'm like, no, there's plenty of time. No one's going to call you out on continuity if you decide, you know what, let me get something more culturally appropriate.
But it's not. It doesn't feel to me like athletic glory and gymnastics. It feels
me getting a medal right now.
It doesn't feel like a spa, though.
No, you're
I can
worked
picture
up
you
for
getting a
spa
medal
with
in
this music.
Beijing.
Spa, I mean,
Can we get the
not
rights
relaxing.
to play the heavy metal band from the opening ceremony, Gojira? Can we get those rights and play this during our
opening
Olympic
for Korn
segment?
this fall?
Oh.
Have a day, the internet. Oh, what a day for everyone yesterday. It was spectacular and sad to see. We will get into that in a moment, but I don't want to miss the mark. We need to talk about Simone Biles.
Please.
And that incredible achievement from one of our nation's greatest athletes. What a display yesterday. Really warmed the heart. When you consider everything that she went through, both between her own ears and from outside forces with their own agendas, to see her deliver in that moment, and I would say cement her legacy, but for me it was already cemented. It really meant the world to me to see, and we need to give Simone Biles her flowers.
Before we start doing that, before we start celebrating, and hello everyone, hello Juju, Chris, Jess,
hello,
Tony, Roy,
Hey, Izzy.
I want to know how you guys experienced that. So I watched it live, and I know I said the other day I talked about the men's team and how I watched that, and I thought I was nervous then. Holy cow, was I losing it? Like when she was on the beam and it was, oh no, she had a mistake on uneven bars, and now it's the most nerve-wracking event in all of sports. Don't you dare shake a little bit. Don't you dare have a jump scare. And imagine having a jump scare and then trying to remember the very next thing you're supposed to do. I was losing it.
You're not better than me for watching it live. You said that very dismissively.
Sorry.
Like, guys,
No,
I watched it
just-
live.
I
I
going
just
on.
wanted
It's
to
all right.
put the picture because it was 3 PM.
I also
it
watched
was,
it live.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you
So
go.
as long as you watched it with maybe not knowing and had a little bit of nerves, then I would say you're on the same page.
I thought the Brazilian gymnast who came in second, that got the silver medal, Rebecca Andrade, she was incredible, and she put so much pressure on Simone Biles to not screw up, because going into the floor routine, it wasn't like it was, okay, she can mail it in, she's got the difficulty level, so even if she steps out or kind of flubs some of the landings, she'll be fine. No, she had to like really go in there with all the pressure on her, so it was actually like phenomenal television. And so I watched it live too, Izzy, on my way
come
home
on.
from work. And then I watched the re-air on primetime later, because I was like, I just
wanna
gotta do
relive
this. I
this
gotta do
moment.
this again. This
Also
is
better
great.
comment.
It was kind of like we felt this locally with the Panthers. That the Panthers would have a big game, and you'd want to see all the highlights on your phone. I kind of felt that a little bit last night. And yeah, even in the all-around team final, she has like this weird ability, because she always qualifies so well. She's always going last, and no one has to deal with that same sort of pressure. So in the team, when you have all these other rotations going on, nothing else was going on. All eyes were on her, and it made something where she just had to play it safe. It made it a little bit more pressure filled. And yesterday we saw a moment that I was a little conflicted on. Understanding that what she went through at the last Olympics, I kind of talk out of both sides of my mouth on this one, because I want to see her shut people up. I want to see her overcome all that adversity. I want her to overcome all that pressure. And anybody that had anything to say the last go round has to shut up, because she delivered in that moment. But also, I don't want her to encounter these triggers. I don't want her to be going through that inner battle, the mental aspects of the game. And thank God she overcame everything and delivered. It was a great moment, one of the all-time Olympic moments, I think. It's kind of strange to have an all-time Olympic moment when you have, by consensus, such a large favorite, because she is a dominant athlete. And you think back to some of the other great Olympic moments, both in Summer and Winter Olympics, they're usually underdog stories that resonate.
Right.
But I do think that there's an underdog story in that she wasn't necessarily chasing other gymnasts, though they brought it. She was also chasing what was going on in her own head and having to overcome that. And I think that's a story that resonates with everybody.
Well, to me, it was the perfect test. Like Jess said, not only did Andrade put the pressure on her, but she also had a mistake. So then it was, oh, okay, I need to take advantage of the fact that my difficulty is higher than everybody else's down the stretch in these last two events, and so I just need to be solid. But when you watched her come off the beam, I've never seen her more nervous. That was after she finished. And so I'm like, wow, she was nervous as all get out there. And that's part of the humanizing thing that I'd mentioned, watching the Netflix doc. I was like, wow, I thought she was this perfect athletic robot, but here she actually has feelings. And so I was wondering, going into that floor, would those nerves spill over?
That's twice this week you've used "as all get out." That's a very old saying.
Sorry.
I
As
feel like
hell.
he doesn't
You
want to
say
use
as-
HE double hockey.
Yeah.
As
I
hell.
don't. I
As
don't.
heck.
I'm unfamiliar with the gamesmanship of gymnastics, because during Andrade's beam, she was being cheered on by Simone Biles. Like, is this Simone? Like, hey, you hear
You
me
think it's
cheering for you?
nefarious?
No, not. I'm just saying gamesmanship of like,
know.
I am trying to build up this pressure
yeah.
right now.
Well, where
'Cause
do you guys stand on that? Because
I don't know
if I'm
much about
on-
the relationship.
If I'm on pommel horse and my teammates are yelling at me the whole time, I just want them to shut up, man. Do
Oh,
not
the
tell me
pommel
what I
horse
have
was
to
run
where
into this?
I
You run
noticed
into
it
this
too, where they
often?
were where they were like, "You got this, get the rhythm," You're good. You're in rhythm on the pommel horse. I was like, oh my god. I would be like, Dad, shut up, stop yelling.
Seriously.
And the broadcaster was calling attention to it. You can hear Simone cheering her on. I don't know. I was just thinking, like, I think it was very innocent because they seem to have good interactions,
Yeah,
but it was just like,
Yeah, they know each other.
But
They've competed against each other a number of times. So I think it was like a genuine, like, supportive, like, you
but
got
also,
this.
But a little also like, I'm here. I'm Simone Biles, and I'm cheering for you at the
sure.
biggest moment of your life. I don't know. It just felt like a little bit of gamesmanship.
The optics are good of it.
Right, it makes
it's
her
a
look
good
good.
look.
Right.
I don't think that was her intention. By all accounts, their relationship is a genuine one.
But you know she's not really rooting
but-
for her in that spot.
yeah, but that's me not
She
having-
wants her to fall, though, secretly.
that's me not having enough connection points to the sport itself because I don't watch it often enough.
I doubt that she wants her to fall. I think she just wants to do everything better. It doesn't necessarily, you're not like necessarily rooting for someone to fail because like we said, like her difficulty level on everything is so much higher that the other opponents can do their routines perfectly and Simone Biles can still win.
They said Simone just has to be Simone here. And I'm like, okay, that's cool if I totally understand and I watch Simone every time out. But generally I'm following this year to year and I don't know what that means. Outside of watching other floor routines and realizing that, this is a far more difficult routine, I would have preferred more from the commentary there just to kind of explain what was going on as someone that was just kind of following it year to year.
You know what I learned is that you're supposed to look at the end of the beam to keep your balance, and I just feel like that wouldn't work for me. I feel like I would still fall.
I watched a video of Sunni Lee. I think she was maybe 6 or 7 on a homemade balance beam doing backflips. And man, would I be a proud parent if my kid was doing that at that age? I'd be like, I'm done.
Hey,
I'm done.
give it up for Sunni Lee, by the way.
So
Bronze
good.
medal after her health scares, everything. She had to give up gymnastics for a little bit and figure out what was going on.
That must have sucked.
Oh, wow.
She-
What am I doing?
She did an amazing job closing that thing out on the floor routine, getting the bronze medal. What a day.
Yeah, it
I
was a
thought
great,
when
great
she was
moment.
on the
seeing-
bars, she showed her guts. Like she's just such a gamer, and like to come out in that battle for third, and it was who's going to be the cleanest. And you see her on floor, and there was no question she was going to be the best of those 3. She just had it, and that was so much fun to watch the 2 of them go out there with that flag. And going back to Simone, just real quick, right before she was going to get on the floor, I was actually doing affirmations for her. I was saying, I've been here a million times. We've done this before. We've been to the last floor exercise of the meet.
Just be Simone.
Just be Simone. And I was like, you know what? This is crazy. Like, I am not 7 years old anymore.
I was a big fan of what she's done with her platform in the lead up to it. Her post afterwards, once again, becoming a really leaning into mental health advocacy. I think she's going to be an icon. She already is an American athletic icon. She already was kind of a mental health advocacy icon, but strap a rocket to it now